I never thought the sound of my wife's laughter through our bedroom door would be the thing that destroyed everything I'd built over 8 years. But maybe I should have seen it coming. Looking back now, the signs were always there. I just chose to ignore them because I was in love, and when you're in love, you make excuses for everything. Lily and I met at a community barbecue in Tempe 9 years ago. She was wearing a yellow sundress and laughing with a group of friends, and I was immediately captivated. She had this energy about her, carefree, spontaneous, always ready for the next adventure. I was the opposite, steady, reliable, the kind of guy who showed up early and stayed late to help clean up. She told me later that's what attracted her to me, that I was solid and dependable. At the time, I thought those were compliments. We dated for a year before I proposed. During that time, I noticed things that should have concerned me, but I rationalized every single one. She'd cancel plans at the last minute because something more interesting came up. She'd forget important dates, then laugh it off with a shrug and a kiss that made me forget why I was annoyed. She worked at a boutique clothing store but complained constantly about the customers, the hours, the manager who had it out for her. When she got fired for showing up late too many times, I helped her find another job. Then another. Then another. Some people just aren't meant for traditional work environments, I told myself. She's creative, free-spirited. She'll find her calling eventually. After we got married, I thought things would settle down. I imagined coming home to a clean house, home-cooked meals, someone who'd built a life alongside mine. Instead, I came home to dishes piled in the sink, takeout containers on the counter, and Lily on the couch scrolling through her phone or watching reality TV. "I've been looking at job listings all day," she'd say when I walked in, still wearing my welding gear, covered in metal dust and exhausted. "It's mentally draining, you know." I'd nod, kiss her forehead, and start cleaning up. Then I'd order dinner because she didn't have time to cook after all that job searching. I'd do the laundry on weekends because she was too stressed about not finding work. I'd handle the bills, the yard work, the repairs around the house, everything that kept our lives running smoothly. "You're so good to me, Roy," she'd say, curling up next to me on the couch after I'd finished whatever needed doing. "I don't know what I'd do without you." And I'd feel that warmth spread through my chest, that feeling of being needed, of being the hero in someone's story. It didn't matter that I was tired, that I'd worked a 10-hour shift, and then come home to work another 3 hours. She appreciated me. She needed me. That was enough. Except it wasn't, was it? I was just too blind to see it. Looking back, I realized Lily never contributed equally to our life together. Not financially. She'd work for a few weeks, get fired or quit, then spend months searching for the right opportunity. Not domestically. Our house was always a mess unless I cleaned it. We ate takeout unless I cooked. Bills were late unless I paid them. Not emotionally. Our conversations were always about her problems, her frustrations, her dreams and goals. When was the last time she'd asked about my day? Really asked, not just a perfunctory "how was work?" before launching into a story about something she'd seen online or some drama with a friend. I can't remember. But I loved her. God help me, I loved her completely. I loved the way she'd dance around the kitchen when her favorite song came on the radio. I loved how she'd get excited about the smallest things, a new coffee shop opening, a sale at her favorite store, a TV show everyone was talking about. I loved the way she'd reach for my hand when we walked together, or how she'd curl into my side when we watched movies. I loved her enough to overlook everything else. The irresponsibility, the selfishness, the way she treated our marriage like a safety net she could fall back on while she figured out what she really wanted from life. Everyone could see it except me. Or maybe I could see it, but I didn't want to believe it, because believing it would mean admitting I'd made a mistake. That the woman I'd promised to spend my life with wasn't who I thought she was. That I'd been building a future with someone who was never really building it with me. So I kept making excuses, kept taking on more responsibility, kept telling myself that eventually things would change. She'd find a job she loved, settle down, become a true partner. We'd have the marriage I'd always imagined, two people supporting each other, building a life together, facing challenges as a team. I was still telling myself that story the day everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon in Tempe, Arizona. The welding job I'd been working on finished early. The client changed their mind about the metal fixtures, so my crew got sent home with pay. I pulled into our driveway around 3, noticing Lily's car was there. Nothing unusual. My wife had been between opportunities for months now, though she'd been going through jobs like tissues lately. Something was always wrong. The boss was incompetent, the co-workers were annoying, the hours didn't work for her. I opened the front door quietly, not wanting to startle her if she was napping. That's when I heard her voice drifting down from upstairs. She was on the phone and she was giggling. The kind of giggling I hadn't heard from her in years. "Oh my God, Sarah, you have no idea," Lily was saying. "Jack's hands are absolutely magic. Like, I've never felt anything like it. The way he works those pressure points. I swear, I almost fell asleep on his table last week, but then he did this thing with his thumbs along my spine, and I was wide awake again." I froze at the bottom of the stairs. "And his arms," she continued. "Sarah, the man is built. I can see every muscle when he's working. Yesterday he had to really lean in to work out this knot in my shoulder, and I could feel the heat just radiating off him. He smells incredible too, like sandalwood and something else I can't quite place." My heart started pounding. "My name is Roy, and I'm a welder. I work with fire and metal, dangerous equipment, high-stress situations. But nothing had ever made my hands shake the way they were shaking right then. The best part," Lily's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, "he always makes sure we have the room at the end of the hall. It's more private," he says. "And last time, after the massage, we just talked for like an hour. He gets me, you know. He actually listens. Not like—" She stopped herself, but I knew what she was going to say. "Not like Roy." I backed out of the house as quietly as I'd entered, got in my truck, and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove through Tempe's streets, past Arizona State University, past the town lake, past everything that had been familiar territory for nearly a decade. Eventually, I found myself calling Sarah. Sarah had been Lily's friend since college. They'd grown apart over the years. Sarah had gotten married, had 2 kids, built a stable life while Lily bounced from job to job, always dissatisfied, always looking for something else. But they still talked occasionally. "Roy." Sarah sounded surprised when she answered. "Is everything okay? I need to ask you something," I said. "And I need you to be honest with me." There was a long pause. "This is about the massage therapist, isn't it?" My stomach dropped. "How long have you known?" "Roy, look, I didn't know if there was actually anything going on. Lily talks about him a lot, but she talks about a lot of people. And I thought maybe I was reading too much into it." "What has she told you?" Sarah sighed. "His name is Jack. He works at that fancy spa complex on Mill Avenue, the one with the salt rooms and the meditation gardens. She started going there about 4 months ago. At first, it was just regular massage appointments. But then she started going twice a week, then 3 times. She said it was helping with her back pain. She doesn't have back pain." "I know," Sarah said quietly. "Roy, I'm so sorry. I should have said something. But I kept thinking maybe I was wrong, maybe it was innocent, and I didn't want to cause problems if there was nothing there." "What else?" "She said he's different from other guys. That he's sensitive, artistic. That he understands her creative side." Sarah paused. "Roy, I think you need to know, she's been spending a lot of time there. More than just appointments. She mentioned having coffee with him in the spa's cafe, taking walks in the gardens after her sessions." After I hung up with Sarah, I sat in my truck for a long time. The Arizona sun beat down on the windshield, turning the cab into an oven, but I barely felt it. My mind was racing through the past few months, looking for signs I'd missed. The new perfume, the sudden interest in yoga pants and athletic wear, the way she'd started taking her phone everywhere, even to the bathroom, the mysterious errands that seemed to take hours, how she'd stopped asking about my day, stopped caring about the projects I was working on. But I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet, because something Sarah had said gave me an idea. I drove to the spa complex. It was one of those upscale places with bamboo floors and fountains in every corner, where they played meditation music and everything smelled like eucalyptus. The kind of place that charged $200 for an hour of someone rubbing your shoulders. I walked up to the reception desk, where a young woman with a nameplate reading Crystal greeted me with a practiced smile. "Good afternoon. Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I was hoping to book a massage. My wife comes here regularly, Lily. She sees someone named Jack, and she raves about him. I wanted to try him out myself." Crystal's fingers flew over her keyboard. "Oh yes, Lily. She's one of Jack's regulars. Let me see his availability." She frowned at the screen. "He's pretty booked up. The earliest I have is 3 weeks from now." "That's fine," I said. "I'll take it." But I wasn't planning to wait 3 weeks. Over the next few days, I became someone I'd never thought I'd be. I started following my own wife. I told her I'd picked up some overtime shifts, easy lie, since I often worked irregular hours, and instead, I tracked her movements. On Thursday, she left the house at 2 p.m., telling me she was going to look at a job listing. I followed her straight to the spa. She was inside for 3 hours. 3 hours for a massage that supposedly lasted 60 minutes. On Saturday, she said she was meeting a potential employer for coffee. I watched her walk into the spa's cafe, but the only person she met was a guy in his early 30s with shoulder-length hair pulled back in a bun, wearing loose linen pants and a fitted white t-shirt that showed off an impressive physique. Jack, I presumed. They sat at a corner table for 2 hours. I watched through the window as they laughed, as he reached across the table to touch her hand, as she leaned in close to whisper something that made him smile. The way she looked at him, it was how she used to look at me back when we first started dating. But here's what really got me. After their coffee, they didn't go back inside the spa. They walked out to the parking lot, and he pulled her into an embrace that lasted way too long to be friendly. His hands slid down her back, and she didn't pull away. She pressed closer. I took pictures. Lots of pictures. That night, Lily came home cheerful, almost giddy. "How was your day?" she asked, actually seeming interested for once. "Long," I said. "Lots of overtime. How about you?" "Oh, the usual. Looked at some job postings, ran some errands. Nothing exciting." She was lying straight to my face, and she was good at it. That was the moment I realized this wasn't new. The ease with which the lies rolled off her tongue suggested she'd had plenty of practice. I spent the next week gathering more evidence. I followed her to the spa for more times. Twice, I watched them leave together in his car, a beat-up Honda that was definitely not spa owner material. They drove to a park, walked along the trails. Once, they went to a movie theater. They were acting like a couple on dates, not a massage therapist and his client. But I needed something more concrete. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. So I did something I'm not proud of. I called the spa, pretending to be considering booking their couple's massage package as an anniversary gift. The receptionist, not Crystal this time, was happy to tell me all about their services. "And do you have private rooms?" I asked. "Oh yes. Our deluxe suites are very private. In fact, they're at the end of our west hallway, completely soundproofed. Perfect for couples who want a truly intimate, relaxing experience." "Does Jack work with couples?" "Jack usually does individual sessions, but he could certainly accommodate a couple's massage if requested." After I hung up, I sat there staring at my phone. The room at the end of the hall. The one Lily had mentioned to Sarah. The private one. That evening I made my decision. But I wasn't going to do what most people would do. I wasn't going to burst into the spa and cause a scene. I wasn't going to confront them together. Because I'd realized something. Lily had been using me for years. Using my income while she flitted from job to job. Using the stability I provided while she looked for something more exciting. And now she was using the life we'd built together as a safety net while she explored something new with Jack. So I was going to use something too, patience, and a legal system that didn't take kindly to adultery and divorce proceedings, even in no-fault Arizona. I contacted a divorce attorney. Her name was Margaret Brown, and she had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless. I showed her the photos, told her everything I knew. "This is good," she said, reviewing the evidence. "Arizona is a no-fault state, so the affair itself won't affect the divorce decree, but it'll definitely impact how the judge views her credibility if she tries to claim she deserves more than half the assets. Especially if we can demonstrate she was unemployed by choice and not contributing to the household. I want to make sure this is done right," I told her. "I don't want her to see this coming." Margaret smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Let me handle it." Over the next 3 weeks, I acted like nothing was wrong. I came home from work, ate dinner with Lily, watched TV, went to bed. She continued her errands and her job searching, and I continued to say nothing. But behind the scenes, Margaret was working. She filed the divorce papers, prepared all the documentation, and set up a process server to deliver them at the most strategic time possible. Then came the day I'd been waiting for. It was a Tuesday afternoon, almost a month to the day after I'd first overheard that phone call. I knew Lily had an appointment at the spa at 2 p.m. I knew Jack's schedule by heart now. At 2:47 p.m., according to the plan, a process server walked into the spa and asked for Lily by name. She was escorted to the private room at the end of the hall, where she was handed divorce papers in front of Jack. I wasn't there to see it, but Margaret's assistant was. She reported back that Lily had turned white as a sheet, and Jack had immediately stepped back, putting distance between them. Apparently, he hadn't known Lily was married. She'd never mentioned a husband. That detail stung more than I expected. I wasn't even worth mentioning to her affair partner. Lily came home 3 hours later. I was sitting in the living room, waiting. "Roy," she said, her voice shaking. "We need to talk." "I don't think we do," I replied calmly. "I think the papers said everything that needs to be said." "How long have you known?" "Long enough. It's not what you think." "Don't," I interrupted. "Just don't. I heard you on the phone with Sarah. I followed you. I watched you with him. I know exactly what it is." She sank onto the couch, tears starting to stream down her face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It happened. Jack made me feel special. He listened to me. He understood me. He didn't even know you were married, Lily." She looked up, startled. "What?" "When the process server delivered the papers today, he was shocked. You never told him about me, which means you weren't just cheating, you were living a complete double life." "I was going to tell him." "When? After the divorce? Or were you planning to just keep both lives going indefinitely?" She had no answer for that. The divorce proceedings were brutal, but not in the way most divorces are brutal. There were no screaming matches, no thrown dishes, no dramatic confrontations. It was cold, clinical, efficient. Margaret made sure of that. Lily tried to claim she deserved more than half of our assets because she'd been supporting my career by handling household duties. Margaret countered with documentation of Lily's job history, or lack thereof, showing that she'd voluntarily left or been fired from 7 jobs in 8 years, often within weeks of starting. Lily tried to claim the spa visits were for legitimate health reasons. Margaret produced the photos of her with Jack outside the spa, plus testimony from Sarah about what Lily had actually said about the relationship. Lily tried to claim she'd been unhappy in the marriage, and that justified her actions. Margaret pointed out that in Arizona, being unhappy didn't entitle you to extra assets, and if Lily had been that unhappy, she should have filed for divorce herself rather than committing adultery. In the end, we split everything 50-50, just like the law required. The house, the bank accounts, even my retirement fund that I'd been building for years while she bounced from job to job. It hurt, but Margaret assured me it could have been much worse if Lily had been more strategic. "At least she didn't think to claim disability or try for alimony," Margaret said. "Some people get creative." The divorce was finalized 4 months after I'd filed. On the day it became official, I got a text from Sarah. "You should know," it said. "Lily and Jack broke up 2 weeks ago. Apparently when he found out she was married, he felt betrayed. He didn't want anything to do with her after that. She's been staying with her sister." I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. But the story doesn't end there. Months passed. I threw myself into work, picked up extra projects, started building a new life. I'd stayed in the house, bought out Lily's half with money from my retirement fund, and slowly transformed it into something that felt like mine alone. Repainted the walls, replaced the furniture, got rid of anything that reminded me of her. I even started dating again, though nothing serious. I wasn't ready for serious, but it felt good to meet new people, to remember what it was like to have someone genuinely interested in hearing about my day. Then, about 8 months after the divorce, I heard through the grapevine that Lily had gotten remarried. Some wealthy businessman she'd met at a networking event. Apparently she'd finally decided to focus on her career after the divorce and had been attending every professional mixer and business conference she could find. The guy was 20 years older than her, owned a string of car dealerships, and had just gone through his own messy divorce. They'd gotten married in Las Vegas after dating for 3 months. I felt nothing. Maybe a little bit of satisfaction that she'd shown her true colors so quickly, landing another provider to support her while she continued to search for herself. But mostly nothing. But here's where it gets interesting. About a year after that, I was at a welding conference in Phoenix. I'd been doing well, had started my own contracting business, and was there to network and pick up some new techniques. During a break, I grabbed coffee in the hotel lobby and saw a familiar face. Jack. He'd changed his look, shorter hair, more conventional clothes, but I recognized him immediately. He was sitting alone, staring at his phone with an expression of pure misery. I almost walked away. What was there to say? But something made me approach him. "Jack," I said. He looked up, confused at first, then recognition dawned. His face went pale. You're Roy. Lily's ex-husband." "Yeah. Look, man, I swear I didn't know she was married. When I found out," I held up a hand. "I know. I'm not here to start something. I I saw you sitting here looking like your world ended, and I thought maybe we could talk." He stared at me for a long moment, then gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sure. Why not? Everything else in my life has gone sideways. Might as well have coffee with my ex-girlfriend's ex-husband." We talked for 2 hours. Jack told me his side of the story. How Lily had come to the spa claiming to be single. How she'd flirted with him for weeks before he finally asked her out. How she'd spun this whole narrative about being a creative soul trapped in a boring town, looking for someone who understood her artistic nature. "She never mentioned you once," Jack said. "Not until that process server showed up. I felt like such an idiot. And the worst part, after we broke up, she kept trying to come back to the spa. She'd book appointments, show up, act like nothing had happened. My boss finally had to ban her because she was making other clients uncomfortable." "What happened to your job there?" I asked, noticing he was at a welding conference instead of working at a spa. He laughed bitterly. "Lost it. The owners found out about the situation with Lily, decided it was unprofessional, even though I hadn't known she was married. They said it was bad for business. So here I am, trying to figure out a career pivot at 33 years old. Turns out welding certifications are good money." I studied him for a moment. He looked defeated, worn down by life in a way I recognized. It was how I'd felt during those months of discovery and divorce. "Stop beating yourself up," I said. "You were lied to, same as me. She's good at lying. She's had years of practice. The difference is, you got out after a few months. I wasted 8 years. That doesn't make it better." "No," I agreed. "But it makes it survivable. Look, I'm starting a contracting business. I need welders who are reliable and willing to learn. If you're serious about the career change, I've got an opening." Jack looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Why would you help me?" "Because you're not the enemy. You were a victim of the same person I was. And because holding grudges is exhausting." I pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. "Think about it. Call me if you're interested." He did call 2 days later. He's been working for me for 8 months now, and he's actually a pretty good welder once you get past the initial learning curve. We don't talk about Lily. There's an unspoken agreement that she's off limits as a conversation topic, but sometimes when we're working on a difficult project and making good progress, we'll exchange a look that says everything that needs to be said. We survived. We moved on. We're building something better. As for Lily, I heard through Sarah that her new marriage was already showing cracks. Apparently, the wealthy businessman expected a trophy wife who'd host dinner parties and look good at charity events, not someone who'd complain about every task and quit when things got difficult. Sarah said Lily had been talking about how trapped she felt, how her husband didn't understand her. Same story, different verse. I don't feel vindictive about it anymore. I don't wish bad things on her. I just feel grateful that she's someone else's problem now. Sometimes people ask me if I'd ever get married again. I tell them maybe someday with the right person. Someone who values honesty over excitement, partnership over passion, building something real over chasing the next thrill. Someone who, when they say for better or worse, actually means it. But for now, I'm good. I've got my business, my work, my rebuilt life. I've got Jack on my crew, proving every day that people can change and grow when they're given a chance. I've got a house that's finally mine, filled with things I chose, decorated the way I want. And I've got something Lily will never have, peace of mind. Because I know who I am. I know what I value. And I know that I don't need to lie or cheat or chase some fantasy to feel alive. The truth is, I'm glad it happened. Not glad she cheated. That still stings sometimes, late at night when I'm alone with my thoughts. But glad I found out. Glad I got out. Glad I learned the lesson before we had kids. Before we built even more of a life together. Before I invested another 8 years in someone who was never really invested in me. You know what's funny? The thing that bothered Lily most about the divorce, according to Sarah, wasn't losing the house or splitting the assets. It was that I'd been so calm about it all. She'd expected tears, rage, begging her to stay. Instead, she got cold efficiency and a clean break. She wanted drama, and I gave her paperwork. That, more than anything else, was my revenge. Not making her hurt the way she'd hurt me, but showing her that she hadn't broken me. That I was strong enough to walk away without looking back. Margaret called it the best revenge, living well. I call it finally putting myself first. Either way, it worked. Thank you for watching the video to the end. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. A playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to is now displayed on the screen. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.